Okay, take a look at this. A Sony 13-inch TV. And it's a model KV-13VM42 made in July of 2000. But let me turn this thing around here. And as you can see, it's not... Focus, you fought! Come on! There we go. It's not just a Sony TV. It has a VCR. Ooh, with VCR Plus, look at that. A double azimuth forehead auto tracking system, auto head cleaner. Oh yeah, that thing's probably gummy like no other at this point. But these units were actually made by LG, Lucky Gold Star. And I don't even know if the picture tube was made by Sony. I think LG kind of got licensed to make these tubes. Let's take a look up inside here. And there's the cylinder, the loading post, the guides, the audio control erase head, the pinch roller. And so I'm just going to go ahead and power this thing up and see what it actually wants to do. A Sony that they claimed was a Sony, actually LG. I remember working on these when they were brand new under warranty. Mono audio. I don't think it's even hi-fi stereo. But they actually work pretty doggone good for an LG unit. I think once we get in here, we will certainly determine that this thing was not manufactured by Sony. Okay, let's go ahead and get the back off of it and take a look inside. Okay, well, I've got it zoomed out as absolutely far as I possibly can here. And we'll go ahead and get the screws out of here. I'm sorry that it takes up most of the camera space. And I need my egg carton to put the screws in so that way I don't get them separated or mixed up. And I think there's a couple more on the bottom. Let me tip this thing face down. Yeah, look at that. It's kind of hard to see, but over here in this corner, there is a screw. And then I'm sure there's going to be another one over here in this corner. Okay, screws are out, I think. Oh, it doesn't want to let go. What the heck, dude? Oh, there it goes. Okay, it does let go. Let's tip it back up here. I mean, this thing is only a 13-inch TV, but it weighs like 30 pounds. And it's been a long time since I've seen a CRT TV. Look at all that goodness down there. Actually does show Sony on the main board. Wow. Does look like an actual Sony picture tube. Let me go ahead and get the cell phone fired up here. And we'll get it synced to the camera. Check, check, check. And so let's just go ahead and take a look around this thing. If it is a Sony actual Sony made product, it is much later in production. A34JBU70X. It does say Sony Trinitron. That does actually look like a Sony yoke with an actual Sony part number on there. Made in Mexico. Bunch of big old regulators ICs on that heatsink right there. Little switch mode power supply, probably for standby right here. Just take a quick peek around this thing. Bridge rectifier. Once again, the flyback transformer. Oh, there's the bad sign. Daewoo. It is made by Daewoo, the transformer. This IC, if I can zoom in on it possibly. TA8403K. That's probably the vertical output I see. That does not look like a Sony board to me, at least. And I'm sure all this down here is going to be Lucky Gold Star LG, the VCR mechanism. There's the tuner and the back of the mechanism right there. Not much to see over here on the sides, at least. One little tiny speaker. Let's zoom in on that and see if there is any kind of a indication as to who built this thing. AURA? No, it's not a Sony by any means, but not too terribly shabby for a 2000 built unit here. Well, next thing I'm going to do is turn this thing around and power it up and see what it wants to do. Okay, so I do have the Variac turned off. I'm going to power this thing on, and let's look at the TV. Power is applied, and I don't see anything on a standby light. Let's go ahead and hit the power button and see if it lights up and comes to life. Oh. All I get is a red blinking light. It doesn't even try to power the TV on. Oh, that's not good. It should at least power the television on at an absolute minimum. I just get the blinking light of death, maybe. And now nothing. That's all I get. 2 blinks. That's it. That's the ball game, folks. Off, on, maybe on, nothing. 2 blinks. That's it. So I'm thinking we need to look at the power supply for the main microprocessor and see if we have voltages that are somewhat correct. Okay, so I do have the VCR kind of slid out so I can kind of get to this thing. They weren't the friendliest to work on. Okay, but check this out down here. Let me zoom in on that. Is this pay-per-view? There's a dime under those stickers and a nail. Oh, a nail is not a good sign in these things. How long has that? I guess I should actually go ahead and shut the power off before I go much farther. Yeah, that's a good sign. Yeah, just lay in here. And then these stickers are just loose. Racina USA? What? Somebody tell me. And a dime with the date of 1994, I think it is. Yes, 1994. Philadelphia Mint, looks like. That might be part of the problem because I don't believe this is a pay-per-view TV. Anyhow, looking over here at this one connector, it's got ground and V6 volts, maybe -6, 9 volts, ground power on, DG on, and CRT on. And they put labels back underneath this, but I can't quite get to it. Protection. So I'm going to power this thing back up and measure some voltages. Here's another connector right here. And what is this? DN NFB ramp ground X-ray protect FBP flyback protection, maybe ground HN and ABL automatic brightness level. And that does go down into the VCR unit. And what do we got over here? TV 6 volts, M 9 volts, S12 ground, S15 ground, and another S15. I don't see any bulge capacitors over here, although they are all Daewoo. This is definitely Not made by Sony. Well, that's a Daewoo. And that looks like a possibly United Chemicon cap. Sony, I don't think would ever use those quality capacitors. Another Daewoo. And some more Daewoo caps. Yeah, definitely not built by Sony, even though it does say Sony over here on the board. Just, it's a Sony name, just licensed to this company. I thought it was made by LG. I might be wrong. It might be made by Daewoo. Okay, so I'm going to get a voltmeter out and just see if we have any voltages on these connectors. What is this one over here? Hello? Protect V-Sync Cap G capstan. And then what is that? Oh, drum. Maybe that's a generator. Capstan generator, drum generator. And then something on 12 volts maybe? I don't know. Okay. Enough screwing around. Let's get a voltmeter out and see if we have anything on these connectors. Okay, so here we go. Power has been applied at this point. And let's just do a lead integrity check. So we'll go to ground right here. I see 4 ohms. That's pretty good. These are actually some very cheap Chinese leads. But it is what it is. So we'll go to ground. Once again, ohms. Oh, wow. 0.6, 0.7. I'm good with that. Back to volts. And this is labeled V6V. Nothing. -9, nothing. Ground, power on command. That's what should turn on the main relay, which is one of these two. I think one is for degaussing and one's for main power. Over here, I barely see them on the screen. So that must be DG is degaussing on, and CRT on, nothing, of course. And I can't see what those other 2 pins are, but do we have any? Yes, we have 6 volts on that one, and 0.9 on that one. So let's look at this. TV 6 volts. Yeah, 0.6 volts. That shouldn't be right. M9. 0.9, no, that can't be right. S12, 0.5 volts. S15, 0.5 ground, and another S15 is 0.00 something. Over here, protect, V-Sync, capstan, drum, and on 12. We'll look at the on 12, and I have 0.6. And back over here on this connector, do I have any main power supply, video, NFB, ramp, ground, X-ray, FBP, ground? No, I don't have any power supply. So, thinking we got to have a problem in the standby power supply right here. Although it does blink the LED, which is odd. And I thought one of these pins did have 6 volts on it. Yeah. I'm going to try to find a service manual on this. Let me hit the power on command, and we'll go over here to the power on lead. Oh, freaking really? It turned on? Are you kidding me right now? Oh my God. And it turned off. You can actually hear the high voltage come up and go, what is that? I saw that laying in the mechanism. And it did turn on for a moment. The high voltage did come up. You could hear the static. Let's look at power on again. What? I have to put my probe on there to get it to turn on? And I don't see any image on the screen. I do see an image, line. And as soon as I remove my probe, it goes off. Do we have a connection issue over here? Because I'm not in the low impedance mode right here. I'm just on the regular input, which should be 11 megohms, 11 million ohms, I believe, is the input resistance on this unit. The power light is actually still on. Now it's staying. There it went off. There it came back on. You have a connection issue down here? Is that all it is? I think so. You hear it clicking on and off right there? Let's go ahead and pull this board out of this thing. Powering down. Okay, one moment while I get the board unscrewed and out. We can look at the bottom of this connector as well as the rest of these and see what they might look like. One moment, please. Well, I don't see any issues with that connector at all. I was hoping to find a busted connection on there or a donut or something, because if I wiggle it, it turns on and off. Could it be a pin fitment issue? Well, I don't have a way to do a drag test. Then the other connector is buried underneath this crossbar right there. But yeah, it looks perfect. Let me go ahead and pause this and enable the macro zoom, and we'll take a really super close-up look at these pins and see what they look like. Okay, so here's a nice close-up zoomed view of the connector right here. And I am not seeing any issues at all. This thing looks absolutely perfect. I have an autofocus, so it'll track as I move it up and down. Yeah, not seeing any problems. Maybe I should just go ahead and resolder it to be safe. Better safe than sorry. Let's go ahead and fire up the soldering iron. People have asked me what temperature I use. Well, I use 800 degrees. And yes, it's a cheap Chinese knockoff, but I've had good luck with these. I don't need a Hacko. It does what I need it to do. So I'm very happy with this Yihua. Y-I-H-U-A. This is the 862BD Plus. I did have another one that I replaced with this Yahuwah. Sounds like it's coming up again. It's repeating on me. My Pop-Tart's repeating on me. So I like this one because if you don't use it, you can actually program it to go to sleep. And it'll go down to, I think, 392 degrees, which is the sleep temperature to save your tip. And it must have some kind of a vibration sensor in the soldering iron itself, because once you jiggle the iron, it comes back to life. So let's go ahead and resolder these pins. Okay, everything's been resoldered. Let's go ahead and put the board back down and try this test again and see if it powers up and fails, or powers up successfully and stays powered up. Okay, I'm going to zoom back out. Might be a moment. Okay, there we go. Oh shoot, I can't even see the flyback pins. Normally that's one of the big issues on some of these units, because the flyback has a very large mass, and as it vibrates around over time, it does tend to break the solder pins loose. So let's get everything plugged back in here. Not even sure. Maybe the filament leads, I'm not sure. There is the yoke, and they tied it in a knot. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Oh, I'm sorry, you guys can't see that. Let me tip back here. There we go. So I'll just go ahead and zip tie that when we're all said and done. Pay particular attention to the direction that this goes. There's a nub right here that has to fit in that groove. So there is a vertical, which is these two leads right here, and a horizontal yoke, which is these two that are spaced far apart, because it has potentially up to about 1500 volts peak to peak on the horizontal yoke at least. What the freak? Where'd everything else go? Degaussing, we don't need that, which goes right here. This is off the CRT board, so I should find a connector for it. Oh, there's one. Well, it fits, so I'm good with that. Now this one looks like it used to come up and go in, well, the service switch right there. Go in this neighborhood-ish. Oh, wait. Oh, this one I think went up on the CRT socket. Yes, there it is. We're plugging in connectors up here right now. So this is the questionable connector. Man, could they make it any shorter? Yes, they probably could have. And yes, last connector. Okay, connected. Big thing is CRT ground, which I believe comes down through this connector way back here. Power on. And the power light, don't know if you can see it right here, is blinking. And now I have nothing. It did power on momentarily. Now it's on. I think we have a faulty plug. Yeah, because that has been dropped. I didn't look at the circuit board for cracks. So if I hold this back, it works. Well, it's got to be this connector. Yeah, if I move it, it powers down, but everything else is perfect. So as long as I put pressure on it like this, powers up, there's high voltage, everything's good. And I'm looking for an image, and yes, I get an image. And so I'm physically pushing this thing back, flexing the board. There's a standby power supply. This is the main run power supply right here. Yes, I realize I have two hands, which could be a potential shock issue. And it's working perfect, but if I let go of this pin, it powers down. And no, it did not power back up. So I think we have a pin fitment issue right here. But before I do anything, because what I'm thinking of doing is just soldering the pins directly to the circuit board, that makes it incredibly hard to service because you can't unplug this connector anymore. I'm going to go ahead and push back on it once again, power this thing on. There it is, high voltage came up. I'm going to wiggle all the other pins around. And I see no issues whatsoever. I do have a display on the screen that says line. And I'm going to try to very gingerly let go of that. And we shall get a tape and put the tape in here and see what the... that's not good. Eject. Okay, that's better. And it powered off. Oh no, it did not. Power stayed on. I'll try to put a tape in here and see if the mechanism wants to play a tape. And it took the tape. And it did not load the tape. No, that doesn't sound good. There, you can see the front of it there. It's still powered on. Eject. Please. Eject. And it did eject. Power is still on. I have a display on the screen. And it will not load. So it definitely has an issue with the connection on this connector to the VCR. And it does have a VCR issue as well. I'm going to pull my wireless mic off here. Get some cable out here. And let you listen to what this sounds like when I try to load it. Okay, here we go. Loading the tape. It looks like it tries to load and then it stalls. Then it unloads. Then it sounds like it stalls again. Ejecting. Ejecting. And it does eject. So at this point, I think I'm going to be able to give my customer a fairly accurate diagnosis. This unit does have multiple problems. It has a pin fitment or connection issue right here. I may have to take these off and try to retension each pin individually or just resolder each pin back to the circuit board completely. Because the unit is running right now. And let me get the cell phone and I'll show you the current meter. Okay, we are recording. Okay, synced audio at least. So let me show you the current meter over here on the power supply. Shut off the video light, I don't need that. And we'll unplug those leads from the power supply. And so they should be synced. So you should be seeing the current on the PR57 isolated by the way. And I'm wiggling this connector right here. And there it shut down and powered back up. And wiggling, there it shut down. It did not power back up at that point. So Definitely a pin fitment issue right here. Powering back on. Let's look at the current. And I get nothing. Look at that. The LED, don't know if you can see that on the camera. Hello? You were just blinking a moment. There it goes. It's blinking and nothing. But as I recall, if I press, let me try to hold the phone back. So I'm pressing back on this connector and it powers up just fine. Whoops, sorry. Letting go and it powered down. Ooh, shaky, shaky, shaky. Okay, so, oh, is that thing setting up on one end? Could that be the whole problem? Look at that. Let me zoom in. Look at that gap under there. Is the connector just up? I think it might be. Oh, that shouldn't do it. That's only like 10 or 15 thousandths of an inch. That should be just fine. Well, let's try it again. Connector reinserted. And it will not power on. Okay, pausing the cell phone. Pushing back. Oh, look at that. Powered up when I pushed it. Unbelievable. And it shuts off when I release it. Okay, so at a minimum, we're going to have to repair this connector. Power off in some fashion. If you press down on this little tab right here, let me zoom in on that. Get this thing unconnected. How far can I zoom? That's plenty far. So on these connectors, let me get a small screwdriver. There we go. So on these connectors, if you push that little pin right there, you can actually, hello, there we go. You can actually pull the connector out and then you can retension the connector right there. So you push in right there on that side and you push in on that side, and look at that. So now when the pin goes into it in the center, it's going to have to separate those two pins and make a very positive connection. Well, let's go ahead and do that real quick on all of these pins. First pin back in, and I'm going to zoom out because this is going to be all over the place. Maybe I'll zoom in just a little bit for you. contact me on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, please be aware it might be weeks and weeks and weeks or months. I haven't actually checked those messages since the first of the year. It's just been that hectic. Emails, yeah, be patient, please. Remember, with your help, we can try to keep these things out of the landfill, out of the recycle bin, and out of the waste facility. Everyone, thank you for making it to the end of the diagnosis on the Sony, once again, the KV-13VM42, possibly built by Daewoo. Everyone have a great day. Thank you so much for watching once again. I really do appreciate all the views, the comments, the support, especially the donation to help my son-in-law and daughter get back up on their feet. Thank you so much. Everyone have a great day. Bye-bye. Okay, well, I thought that was going to be the end of it, but I just couldn't let it go. I wanted to make sure everything was good, so I went ahead and give it a tug test where I like pull up on every lead, and lo and behold, that lead right there, labeled as ground, as you can see right there, pulled right out with no help whatsoever. It was never crimped good from the factory. In fact, this third lead over here, if I can do this, I'm watching on camera. This one is, wow, it's like it's in the same boat. I might go ahead and just resolder. Man, that one feels good, but look at that. There's no strain relief whatsoever on this thing. So all I really did was just add a bit of solder, and then while it was molten, I had tinned leads, and I just pushed it back down in there. I think I'm going to go ahead and do this lead as well. I actually think I'm just going to go ahead and just add molten solder to it, because it looks like they didn't crimp the jacket of the wire to give it some strain relief. All the rest look good, but this one ground wire just lifted out with like no help whatsoever. And then I think once it's all said and done, I'm going to put a zip tie around it to add a little bit of structural integrity to this unit. So I'm just babbling on and waiting for my Chinese solder station to warm up to 800 degrees, which is the temperature I use. My Yahua 862 BD Plus. Like I said, I've got the what's the other one? I think it's a Yahua also, 862 D Plus. It's the one I made the video on, modifying this thing from Celsius to Fahrenheit, and it doesn't even have a brand name on it, but this one is the Yahua. People have suggested I should just go get a Hakko or something. For 80 bucks, this thing works perfectly well as a hot air blower. So power is removed, by the way. And incidentally, if you're curious, the tip on this unit is not grounded to earth. It is earthed slightly through a 1 million ohm resistor, so that if I do accidentally contact a hot lead with this while it's on, it won't do any damage. So I do that typically mainly for ESD, electrostatic discharge. So we're just going to go ahead and do that. And we just need something to get this little solder ball right there out of there. Good. Yes, very happy with that. So yeah, I'm going to put a small zip tie, Harbor Freight zip tie, around this. And we'll grab the cutters. Those aren't cutters. Those are needly nose. Anyhow, there is the part number for the Weller ESD Safe L4G needly nose pliers. And then there are the cutters that I use. MS54 ESD Safe once again. Actually, I lost a pair of these. I probably mentioned it in a previous video. I lost a pair of these, and so I ordered 2 extra pair just to have. I think they're about 25 bucks a piece. So now I believe I have 3 of these and 2 of the needly nose pliers. I call it needly nose just for the fun of it. I know it's needle. Power back on. The set did turn on automatically because it is a, see my finger quotes, a Sony. It writes to the EEPROM. It remembers the state it was in and the volume that it was in, even though I believe it's made by Daewoo. So I'm just going to go ahead and wiggle this around now. Power is still applied. And remember last time we moved this just a little tiny bit and the set shut off. And it is still powered up. I still need to investigate the VCR mechanism, but I think I have direction at this point, at least on the television chassis. The set is working. It does show line on the screen, line input, not a line input, and I'm pretty happy with the results, at least on the TV chassis portion. So next, I do need to contact the customer at this point. I've got probably an hour into this to figure out what was going on and disassembly and whatnot. And I'm just going to tell the customer I'm probably going to get at least another hour and maybe 2 hours into repairing the VCR mechanism because it is hidden. It is hidden up inside here. So it's kind of a crapshoot as to what's going to happen to it. But all this has to be disassembled. That's why people don't want to work on these things. It's not just as easy as pulling the top off of this unit and seeing it's got a bad belt and replacing the belt. It does require a significant amount of disassembly to get to where, well, you need to be. Anyhow, I'm going to power this off. It's off. You can hear the crackle of the high voltage dissipate. That means that this does have an internal pull-down resistor in the flyback to dissipate the high voltage. Otherwise, if you didn't hear that crackle when you powered it off, there'd still be high voltage up under this anode cap right here. And they don't tell you anymore what the high voltage should be. I imagine on this unit it's going to be probably in the 22, 24 kV range. I'm trying to look on the little sticker in here. High vacuum picture tube. Determine the presence of high voltage. Serviceman warning. Replace critical components. Those are mostly caps in the high voltage circuit. And the chassis is applied to one side of the power line on this unit. Nowhere does it tell me what the high voltage should be on this unit, but I'm just going to guess it's probably in the 20 to 22 kV range, 22,000 volts. It'll definitely knock you across the room if you're not careful. Anyhow, I think I have a resolution as to why this thing was turning on and off. Like I said, I did a little bit of more investigation off camera, and that's what I came up with. So hopefully there will be a part 2 on this. If not, everyone, thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. Everyone, have a great day. Bye-bye.